She was a pariah, the daughter of a thief who vanished with the town's fortune. He was a Lakota warrior, an outcast trusted by no one. She was haunted by a ghost, a phantom that crept into her cellar every night. When Eliza Hayes finally broke her silence, she didn't cry, "Murder!" She cried, "My father sneaks in every night." The Lakota, Matto, was stunned. He knew her father was dead. He had tracked him to his grave. But in the barren West, graves lie, and the unthinkable was the only path to the truth. The dust in Redemption Creek, Arizona Territory, had a personal hatred for Eliza Hayes. It clung to the hem of her faded calico dress, coated her eyelashes, and settled in a fine, gritty layer on the shoulders of her father's old frock coat, which she wore for protection. Protection, she felt, from the stairs. The town of Redemption Creek sat in a high desert basin, a collection of ambitious clapboard storefronts and weary-looking houses huddled against the mesas. It was a town built on hope and sustained by judgment. And ever since the day the Redemption Trust Bank had failed, all that judgment had been aimed at Eliza. Her father, Jedediah Hayes, had been the bank's president, a quiet, respected man. Then, 6 months ago, the payroll for the Taggart silver mine, a staggering sum, had vanished from the vault. So had Jedediah. The hunt was swift. A posse, led by the bank's vice president, Silas Croft, had thundered out of town. They'd even hired the best tracker in the territory, a Lakota man the settlers called Matto, or Bear. Matto, known for his cold efficiency, had tracked Jedediah to the churning rapids of Sentinel Bluff. The tracks ended at the cliff edge, a clear-cut case of suicide by a guilty man. Silas Croft had returned a hero. He'd personally covered a portion of the miners' lost wages, re-established the bank under his own name, and assumed the role of town patriarch. Eliza, however, became a ghost. She lived in the house her father built, the one the bank now technically owned, but which Croft, in a gesture of magnanimous charity, allowed her to inhabit. She was on her way to Slocum's Mercantile, the last establishment that would grant her credit. Jebediah Jeb Slocum, the proprietor, was a man who valued ledgers above gossip. "Mornin', Miss Hayes," Jeb said, not looking up from his scales as he weighed out beans for another customer. "Mr. Slocum," Eliza said, her voice barely a whisper. The other customer, Mrs. Albright, pulled her shawl tighter and pointedly turned her back. "Just the usual, please," Eliza murmured. "Flour, coffee, and a small bottle of laudanum." Jeb finally looked up. His eyes, usually neutral, held a flicker of concern. "That's the third bottle this week, Eliza. For your nerves, I take it. My cough. It's persistent." Mrs. Albright sniffed audibly. "Persistent shame, more like." Eliza flinched as if struck. She paid for her meager supplies and fled the store, the bell on the door ringing like an accusation. She didn't go straight home. She cut through the alley, past the livery, and headed toward the cottonwoods that grew along the dry creek bed. She walked with her head down, but her eyes darted, searching. He was there. Matto sat by a small, smokeless fire, skinning a rabbit with practiced, economical movements. He was a man who seemed carved from the red rock itself. His presence made the townsfolk uneasy. He traded his pelts with Slocum, took his supplies, and vanished back into the wilderness. He spoke little and saw everything. Eliza had never spoken to him. He was the man who had confirmed her father's death. He was the final nail in the coffin of her life. But now, she was desperate. She stumbled to a halt 10 feet from his camp. He did not look up, but his hand stopped moving. They say you can track anything," Eliza whispered, her voice raw. Matto slowly raised his head. His eyes were dark and deep, revealing nothing. I track what is lost. Wing-yang. Woman. He's not lost, she choked out, the words tearing from her. He's here. Matto's face remained stone. Many ghosts haunt this land. No! The cry was sudden and sharp. Eliza fell to her knees, the bag of flour spilling into the dust. Not a ghost. It's my father. Jedediah Hayes. He's alive. Matto stood. He was taller than she'd realized, a figure of lean, hard muscle and old leather. Your father is dead. His tracks ended at the river. The water took him. It didn't, she cried, tears finally breaking free, cutting clean paths through the grime on her cheeks. I know it sounds mad. I know what everyone thinks of me. But you have to believe me. He comes back. He sneaks in. My father sneaks in every night. The declaration hung in the dead air between them. Matto looked at the weeping woman, a picture of desperate, broken sanity. He had seen grief twist the minds of settlers before. But then, a cold shock ran through him. He was shocked not by her claim, but by the sudden, chilling memory of the hunt, the tracks at the cliff edge. He'd been certain, but Silas Croft had been too certain, too eager to declare the case closed. He sneaks in, she repeated, sobbing. Through the cellar, I hear the floorboards. I leave food for him, and it's always gone in the morning. Matto stared at her, his mind racing back to Sentinel Bluff, the way the tracks had been too perfect, the way the rain had started just moments after they'd arrived, washing everything away. He had pronounced Jedediah Hayes dead. And if this woman was telling the truth, his honor, the very core of his being, was built on a lie. He had failed the track. You are mistaken, he said, his voice flat, trying to convince himself. Am I? Eliza's head snapped up, her eyes blazing with a desperate, feral light. Then why, she whispered, am I buying laudanum for a dead man's cough? Matto's stony expression finally broke. He was truly, profoundly shocked. He looked from the distraught woman to the town of Redemption Creek, its false front of righteousness shimmering in the heat. And then he did the first unthinkable thing. He believed her. Show me, Matto said. Show me the cellar. Walking back to the Hayes house with the Lakota warrior was the most terrifying and liberating thing Eliza had ever done. The curtains of every house they passed rustled. Mrs. Albright, sweeping her porch, dropped her broom. To be seen with the town pariah was bad enough. To be seen with the Indian was a scandal that bordered on treason. Matto was oblivious, or perhaps he simply didn't care. His focus was absolute. He walked not like a man, but like a shadow, his moccasins making no sound on the packed earth. He scanned the alley, the rooftops, the space between the houses. Who watches you? He asked, his voice a low rumble. Everyone, Eliza said bitterly. No, not everyone. Someone. They reached her small, two-story home. It was well built, but paint was peeling and the small yard was choked with weeds. It was a house in mourning. He comes after the saloon closes, Eliza explained, her hand trembling as she unlocked the back door. After midnight, the cellar door is outside, but he uses a loose panel under the pantry. She led him into the kitchen. It was cold, even in the Arizona heat. A plate with a heel of bread and a piece of dried meat sat on the table. I leave it here, she said. In the morning it's gone. And she pointed to the floor. Matto crouched. He saw it immediately. A faint, muddy trace, almost invisible. Not a boot print. It was a smear, as if from a rag-wrapped foot, and beside it, a single dark drop. Matto touched the drop. It was sticky. He brought his finger to his nose. Laudanum, he said. He's sick, Eliza whispered. The cough. It's deep. It sounds like his chest is full of gravel. He must be in terrible pain." "If he is your father," Matto said, rising, "why does he not speak to you? Why does he hide from his own daughter?" "I don't know," Eliza's voice cracked. "Maybe he's afraid. Afraid I'll turn him in, or maybe he's so ashamed he can't bear for me to see him. Or perhaps," she paused, a new, terrible thought dawning. "Perhaps he's not Jedediah Hayes anymore. Perhaps the river, or the fall." It broke his mind. Matto's gaze was fixed on the pantry. "Open it." She pulled the door open, revealing shelves of dusty, near-empty jars. At the bottom, a section of the floorboards was slightly warped, the nails sitting proud of the wood. Matto didn't need a tool. His long, calloused fingers found purchase, and with a grunt, he lifted the panel. A wave of cold, damp air rose to meet them. It smelled of mildew, rot, and something else, the raw, metallic scent of sickness. He lit a match from the box on her stove. The small flame illuminated a set of rough-hewn steps leading down into blackness. "I've been too afraid to go down," Eliza confessed, clutching her father's old coat. Matto nodded. He handed her the half-empty box of matches. "Light another if this one fails." He descended the stairs. The cellar was small, packed earth walls held back by timber supports. In one corner sat a pile of damp, mildewed rags that might have once been blankets. In another, a broken crate. The match burned down, scorching his fingers. He dropped it and struck another. There, in the center of the room, was a small, hollowed-out depression. It was a makeshift bed, and in it, unmistakable signs of life. He saw a tarnished silver flask. He uncorked it. Water. He saw the muddy, wrapped cloths that served as shoes, and he saw the plate Eliza had left last night, scrubbed clean. This was no ghost. This was a man, a desperate, wounded animal holing up in the dark. "Eliza," he called up. His voice was different, softer. "He is or was here, but he is not here now." He came back up the stairs, his face a mask of grim calculation. He replaced the floor panel. "He is not a ghost," Matto said. "He is a man, and he is hunted." He turned to Eliza, his gaze intense. "I must know what happened. The truth of the day your father vanished." "I don't know the truth," Eliza said. "I only know what Mr. Croft told everyone." "Tell me," Matto commanded. "Mr. Croft. Silas. He was my father's partner. He said he'd noticed my father acting strangely for weeks. Secretive. Taking ledgers home. He said my father was worried about investments. Then the Taggart payroll arrived. It was kept in the vault overnight to be paid out the next morning. When Mr. Croft arrived at the bank, the vault was open. The money was gone. And so was my father." "The vault," Matto said. "Was it forced?" "No, that was the worst part. It was opened with the combination. Only 2 men knew it. My father and Silas Croft." "So," Matto said, "one of 2 men stole the gold." "Mr. Croft raised the alarm immediately," Eliza said, reciting the story she'd heard 100 times. He showed them my father's desk, a half-written note, saying he was ruined and that he was sorry. They found his horse, lathered and abandoned, 5 miles north. That's when they hired you." Matto was silent for a long time. He walked to her small parlor window, looking out at the town. He was reliving the hunt. The horse, yes. Found easily. Too easily. The tracks. Boots, clear and deep, heading north toward the Badlands. He'd followed them for a full day. The man he was tracking was clumsy, leaving a trail a child could follow. It had bothered him then. Jedediah Hayes was a woodsman. He hunted. He would not be so careless. Then the trail had reached Sentinel Bluff. The river below, swollen with spring melt, was a raging brown monster. The tracks went right to the edge. There were scuff marks, a sign of a fall or a jump. No tracks leading away. He'd stood there, Silas Croft beside him, panting. "He's gone," Croft had said, a strange note of relief in his voice. The coward took the easy way out. "He's dead, Matto. Your job is done." Matto had scanned the far bank. Nothing. No man could survive that fall, that water. He had nodded. He'd taken Croft's money. He had confirmed the death. "Mr. Croft," Matto said, turning back to Eliza. "He protects you. He lets you keep this house." Eliza stiffened. Yes, he is very kind." Matto saw the lie. He saw the flicker of fear in her eyes, a fear that was different from her fear of the ghost. This was a cold, immediate dread. "He is kind," Matto repeated. "And he is the other man who knew the combination." You can't mean that," Eliza whispered, her hand to her mouth. "Silas, he's the one who saved this town. He's asked me to dinner. He wants to take care of me." "He wants to watch you," Matto corrected. "He is a man who knows where all the pieces are. He put your father on that bluff, and he is terrified his ghost has come back." Monto's mind was clear. He had not failed the track. He had been led on a false track. The clumsy trail? It was a decoy. The real Jedediah had gone elsewhere. But the man in the cellar, the sickness, the fall. "He did fall," Matto said, thinking aloud. "The tracks at the bluff were false. But your father, he is sick from the river. He was pushed. He was shot and then he fell." Eliza looked at him, her face ashen. "Pushed? By who?" "The man who led the posse. The man who hired me to find a thief. The man who knew I would report what I saw," Matto said. "Silas Croft." Before Eliza could process this, a sharp, authoritative knock echoed through the house. Eliza jumped, a small scream escaping her. The knock came again, louder. "Eliza, my dear," a smooth, cultured voice called from the front porch. "I saw you walking through town with that undesirable. I've come to make sure you are quite all right." It was Silas Croft. Matto pointed to the kitchen. "Go, speak to him. Do not let him inside, not this room." "But I am a ghost, too," Matto said. He slipped back into the pantry, replacing the panel over the cellar hole, and vanished into the shadows of the small room, just as Eliza, shaking, went to answer the door. Eliza opened the front door, just enough to see him. Silas Croft stood on her porch, filling the frame. He was a handsome man, in the polished, predatory way of a successful banker. He wore a tailored Eastern suit, a pearl grey vest, and a ruby stickpin. His dark hair was meticulously oiled, and he smelled of expensive cigars and bay rum. "Eliza," he smiled, but the smile didn't reach his cold, grey eyes. "You are pale. I trust you haven't been agitated." I am fine, Mr. Croft," Eliza stammered, her hand gripping the doorknob. "Silas, please, we are practically family." He made a small motion to enter, but Eliza didn't budge. His smile tightened by a fraction. "I saw you," he continued, his voice dropping to a confidential murmur. "With the Lakota. Eliza, it is not seemly. The man is a savage, a hired tracker. The townsfolk are talking. It does damage to your reputation, to my reputation as your protector." "He was just asking for directions," Eliza lied, her heart hammering. "Directions?" Croft chuckled. "That man knows this land better than God. No, Eliza, you are lonely, grieving. You are becoming susceptible, seeing things that aren't there." His eyes bored into hers. It was a statement, not a question. "I don't know what you mean," she said. "I hear the whispers," Croft said, stepping closer. "From Slocum, from Mrs. Albright. You speak of visitors, phantoms, You buy laudanum for a cough. Eliza, you must stop this. Your father is dead. He was a thief and a coward, and he is gone. Each word was a hammer blow, designed to shatter her. This obsession, he went on, it's unhealthy. Perhaps a change of scenery is in order. A consolidation. This house holds too many bad memories. You should move into the hotel as my guest. And we could be married, Eliza. I could give you back your name. I could make this all go away. He reached out, tracing a finger along her jawline. Eliza recoiled. The mask of concern vanished, replaced by a flash of reptilian anger. Do not, he hissed, make an enemy of me, child. I am the only thing standing between you and the poorhouse, or the asylum. Do you understand what they do to hysterical women in the asylum? I understand, Eliza whispered, terrified. Good. Croft straightened his tie, his smile returning. I am hosting a small dinner at the hotel on Saturday. Founders' Day. You will be there. You will wear a new dress. My treat. We will show the town that you are recovering. He didn't wait for an answer. He turned and walked down the path, a king surveying his domain. As he reached the street, he paused and looked back. Standing across the way, leaning against the sheriff's office, was Deputy Finn. Finn was a burly, unshaven man who served as Croft's muscle. He met Croft's gaze, nodded once, and then settled in to watch Eliza's house. Eliza slammed the door, her back sliding against it until she sat on the floor, gasping for air. Matto emerged from the pantry. His face was thunderous. He knows, Matto said. He does not know what you know, but he knows you are unstable. He is watching you. He threatened me, Eliza wept. He wants to marry me. He wants to silence you, Matto said. He wants the name Hayes to be his. He wants to own the last piece of the man he destroyed. Matto moved back to the kitchen window, peering through the grime. He saw Deputy Finn across the street, making no secret of his surveillance. I cannot leave now, Matto said. Finn would see. I must wait for dark. What? What do we do? Eliza asked, her terror of Croft momentarily eclipsing her fear of the ghost. He is my father, the man in the cellar. But if Croft finds him, he will not find him, Matto said. Your father is weak. He is sick. But he is a man who survived a fall that should have killed him. He survived the river. He is hiding from Croft. He comes here for food, for medicine, because it is the only place, but he is too afraid to show himself to you. He knows Croft is watching you. He knows that if you are seen helping him, Croft will finish the job. So what now? Now, we wait. We wait for your true father. Tonight, when he comes, he will not find a plate of food. He will find me. The hours dragged by. The sun bled out of the sky, and the high desert chill seeped into the house. Eliza lit a single lamp, but Matto extinguished it. He will not come if he sees light, he said. They sat in the oppressive, moonless dark of the kitchen. They didn't speak. The only sounds were the creaking of the old house, and from the street, the occasional scrape of Deputy Finn's boots. Midnight passed. The saloon doors swung shut for the last time. The town fell into a profound, dead silence. 1 o'clock. 2 o'clock. Eliza was drifting into an exhausted, terrified sleep in her chair when Matto's hand shot out, gripping her arm. She froze. He pointed, not at the pantry, at the back door. A sound, the faintest scratch, scrape, not at the lock, at the wood, near the floor. Eliza's breath hitched. The scratching stopped. Then, a new sound, from the pantry. Creak. Eliza's eyes widened in the dark. Matto's head snapped toward the pantry. A floorboard was groaning. He's coming in, Eliza mouthed, but the sound at the back door came again. Scrape, click. Matto suddenly understood. His body went rigid with a new, horrifying realization. "Get in the parlor," he whispered, his voice deadly. "Now, do not make a sound." He shoved her toward the adjoining room, just as the pantry door creaked open on its own. A dark shape, larger than a man, was emerging from the cellar. It was not a ghost. It was not weak. It was Deputy Finn. He had been using the cellar to spy on Eliza. He'd been the one moving the floorboards, listening. And at the same moment, the back door swung open. Silas Croft stepped into the kitchen, a lantern in one hand and a revolver in the other. "I knew it," Croft sneered, raising the lantern. The light caught Matto, frozen in the center of the room. "The savage is still here. I knew she was lying." "So," Finn grunted, stepping out of the pantry, his own gun drawn. "What do we do with him, boss?" Eliza screamed from the parlor. "Eliza, my dear," Croft called, his voice sickly sweet. "You've been entertaining. How disappointing. Finn, it seems we have a tragic situation on our hands. A break-in. This savage," he forced his way in, and in her terror, poor, fragile Eliza. Well, accidents happen. He was going to kill them both. The ghost in the cellar hadn't been Jedediah. It had been Finn. The muddy tracks, the laudanum. It had all been a lie. Matto looked at Croft. He looked at Finn. He was trapped. "Where is her father?" Matto asked, his voice low. Croft laughed. "Her father? He's where you left him, at the bottom of the Blackwater River. This was all a test, Eliza. And you failed." He had been toying with her. The ghosts, the sneaking in. It was all a cruel game to drive her mad, to isolate her, to break her so she would crawl to him for protection. The laudanum. He wanted Slocum to think she was an addict. "He's not at the bottom of the river," Matto said. Croft's smile faltered. "What?" "I said," Matto repeated. "He is not there." "He's dead," Finn growled. "We shot him ourselves, saw him fall. We." The confession was out. "You shot him," Matto said. "You did not kill him." "Impossible," Croft whispered. "No man could survive," Finn started. "A Wasichu, white man, could not," Matto interrupted. "A man fighting for his name, for his daughter. He can survive much. I came here because she cried for her father. You came because you are a hinter, evil snake. You are the thief." "Kill him, Finn," Croft ordered, his face pale with rage. Finn raised his gun. But Matto was not a trapper. He was a warrior. He moved. He didn't charge. He dove sideways, grabbing the heavy kitchen table. With a roar, he heaved it over. It crashed into Finn, pinning the large man's gun arm against the wall. Croft fired his revolver. The shot was wild, blasting a hole in the ceiling as he jumped back. Matto was already moving. He vaulted over the overturned table, a skinning knife appearing in his hand, as if by magic. Finn, roaring in fury, tried to bring his gun around. Matto's arm moved in a short, brutal arc. The knife buried itself to the hilt in Finn's shoulder. The gun clattered to the floor. Croft, his face a mask of terror, turned and fled out the back door. "Eliza! Stay here! Lock the door!" Matto shouted. He scooped up Finn's dropped revolver and sprinted out the door after Croft, disappearing into the blackness of Redemption Creek. Eliza stood, shaking, in the ruins of her kitchen. Finn was on the floor, groaning, the handle of the knife protruding from his shoulder. The father sneaking in had been a lie, a cruel, twisted game. She sank to her knees, the last bitter piece of her hope dying. Her father was truly gone. Matto was wrong. The ghost was just a lie. And then, a new sound. Not from the pantry, not from the door, from under the parlor floor. A weak, desperate tapping. Tap, 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 tap. And then a voice, so quiet it was barely breathing. A voice she hadn't heard in 6 agonizing months. Eliza! Her head snapped up. Let me in. Please. He's coming back. It was her father. He wasn't in the cellar. He was under the house. Eliza's mind fractured. For a moment, she was convinced Croft's torment had finally broken her. Finn was groaning on her kitchen floor. A Lakota warrior was chasing the town's most powerful man through the streets, and now a voice was coming from the earth itself. Tap, tap, tap. "Father," she whispered, crawling into the parlor. "Eliza! The rug! Hurry!" The voice was real. It was weak, ravaged by sickness, but it was his. She tore at the worn buffalo hide rug in the center of the room. Underneath was a small trap door, its edges hidden by the rug's border. A trap door she had never known existed. Her fingers fumbled with the iron ring. She heaved it open. A man stared up at her from the blackness. It was Jedediah Hayes. But it was a version of him from a nightmare. His hair was long and matted. His beard was wild. His face was a pale, skeletal mask of fever and desperation. He was wearing the tattered remains of the suit he'd vanished in. "Father!" she screamed, a sound of both joy and absolute horror. "Shh, shh, child," he rascaled, his hand reaching up. "Help me, he's... Croft! He'll be back." Eliza grabbed his arms and pulled. He was terrifyingly light. He tumbled out onto the parlor floor, a bundle of wet rags and sharp bones, and immediately fell into a racking, deep-chested cough that shook his entire frame. "My God, you're alive! You're alive!" Eliza wept, holding him. He tried!" Jedediah gasped, clutching his side. "Shot me, on the bluff. Went into the river. The cold. It saved me. The bullet passed through, but the water. The fever. But how? Where have you been?" "In the dark," he whispered, his eyes wide with trauma. "I floated for miles, crawled out, hid in a cave, for weeks, so sick. When I could walk, I came. Here. I dug this, under the house, years ago, for storage. I've been here, listening to him." "Finn?" Eliza asked. "No. Croft." Eliza's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "Croft. He knew I was alive. He's been here, in this house. With me," Eliza said, horrified. "No, with me." Jedediah pointed a shaking finger at the trap door. "He comes down. He brings me food, water, just enough. He's been keeping me prisoner." This was the twist that shattered everything. "What? Why? Why wouldn't he just kill you?" The ledger," Jedediah coughed, a fleck of blood appearing on his lips. "The real one. I took it. Before he could stage the robbery, I knew he was skimming. I was going to confront him. He framed me to cover his own tracks. He thought I had the ledger with me when I fell." "But you didn't," Eliza breathed. "No, I hid it. He's been torturing me. Down there, in the dark, for weeks, trying to find out where. Where is the ledger, Jedediah? Tell me, and I'll let Eliza live. Tell me, and I'll give you medicine for that cough." He watches me, rot, and he smiles. Eliza stared at her father, this broken remnant of a man, the father sneaking in she'd cried about. It hadn't been her father at all. It had been Silas Croft, coming to torment his victim. The sounds in the cellar. That was Finn, yes, planted there by Croft to listen, to watch, to make sure Jedediah never tried to contact Eliza. Croft had been playing a dual game, driving Eliza mad with ghosts and psychological torture, while keeping her actual father caged like an animal beneath her very feet. Where is the ledger, father?" "Safe," Jedediah whispered. In In the bank. In the bank? Irony. He coughed, a faint smile on his lips. He has a private safe. Hidden. Behind the portrait of President Grant. I found it. Months ago. He doesn't know I know about it. When I knew he was coming for me, I put my ledger, my evidence, inside his secret. The sound of a gunshot echoed from the street, sharp and final. Eliza screamed. Jedediah grabbed her. We have to hide. If Matto, if the Indian failed, Croft will come back. He will burn this house with us in it. No, Eliza said. A new strength, forged in rage, flooded her veins. She looked at the groaning, bleeding deputy in her kitchen. She looked at her emaciated father. It ends, she said. It ends tonight. Eliza, no. She grabbed the heavy iron fire poker from the hearth. You, stay here. Bar the door. What are you? Mr. Croft wants to see a ghost, Eliza said, her voice dripping venom. I'll show him one. She stalked out of the parlour, leaving her father staring after her, and marched toward the back door. The street outside was silent. Matto was nowhere to be seen. Croft was gone. A light was on in the sheriff's office. Eliza took a deep breath. She pulled her father's old coat tight around her, raised the poker, and began to walk across the street. Just as she reached the middle of the road, Matto stepped out of the alley beside the bank. He was breathing hard, but he was unharmed. He still held Finn's revolver. He is gone, Matto said. He ran, fled into the darkness. No, Eliza said, pointing. He didn't run. He's a snake. He's gone for help. The light in the sheriff's office wasn't the sheriff. The town's sheriff, a drunkard named Patton, was paid by Croft. Finn is in my kitchen, Eliza said, her voice cold. My father is in my parlour. He is alive, Matto, and he's been Croft's prisoner under my floor for weeks. Matto's eyes widened. The shock he'd felt by the creek was nothing compared to this, the sheer, calculated evil of it. He was keeping him, Matto processed aloud, alive, to find something. A ledger, Eliza said. The proof, it's in the bank, in Croft's private safe. Matto looked from the bleeding woman to the sheriff's office, where shadows were now moving. He looked at the bank, its dark facade like a mausoleum. His debt. The man he'd tracked, the man who had been shot, was alive. But his true debt, it was from years ago. Wait, Matto said, his voice dropping. What? I know your father. Jedediah Hayes. Everyone. No, Matto looked at her, his eyes burning in the dark. Years ago. My son. He was sick, a snakebite. The Wasatchu doctor, Dr. Thorne, he would not see him. He said, an Indian boy is not my concern. My son was. He was dying, in my arms, on this street. Your father, he came from the bank. He argued with the doctor. He forced him. He gave me medicine, quinine, and he gave me gold. He saved my son's life. Eliza stared at him, tears welling. I took Croft's money to track the man who saved my son, Matto said, his voice thick with shame. I led the men who shot him. Wakan Tanka, the Great Spirit, has sent me here. This is not chance. This is balance. He looked at the bank. The proof is in the bank. We can't get in, Eliza said. It's locked. The vault. He is a snake, Matto said. But you are the daughter of the banker. Your father. Did he teach you? Eliza paused. He taught me numbers. He used to make me remember things. Dates, anniversaries. He said, a banker's mind, Eliza, is his real vault. A combination, Matto said. Croft is arrogant. He would use a date. The date he took the bank. The date he thought he killed your father. I remember the posse, Eliza whispered. April 18th, 4 to 18. Matto nodded. Croft is in the sheriff's office. He is gathering his men. He thinks I am the threat. He does not know about the ledger. He does not know his prisoner is free. What are we going to do? Eliza asked. Matto looked at the bank. He looked at the revolver in his hand, and he made his decision. He thinks I am a savage, a thief. Tonight, I will be. This was the unthinkable. A Lakota warrior, a man who lived by the old codes, was about to break into a white man's vault, not for gold, for justice. Go back, Matto ordered. Bar your door. Protect your father. Do not, under any circumstances, open that door. For anyone. But I will not let him win, Matto said. I owe Jedediah Hayes a life. He moved, blending into the shadows of the alley wall, and began to work his way toward the back of the Redemption Trust Bank. Matto was a ghost. He moved along the back of the buildings, using the deep shadows of the moonless night. He reached the rear door of the bank. It was thick oak, with a new, heavy lock. A lock meant to keep thieves out. He had no key. He still had Finn's revolver, but a shot would bring Croft and the entire town running. He studied the lock in the faint starlight. It was a Wasichu device, strong but simple. He jammed the tip of his skinning knife into the keyhole, probing, feeling the tumblers. It was crude. He needed leverage. He looked around. A length of discarded rebar lay near a trough. He retrieved it. Using his knife to guide the rebar's tip, he jammed it deep into the mechanism and leaned. The sound of the lock snapping was like a pistol shot in the silence. Matto froze. He waited. 1 minute. 2. From the front of the street, he heard shouting. He's in the alley. It was Croft's voice. He's trying to get into the bank. He's a thief. Croft wasn't just coming. He was raising the alarm. He was painting Matto as a common criminal. Matto slipped inside the bank. The air was stale, smelling of paper, coin, and Silas Croft's cigars. He heard the heavy thud of boots on the boardwalk out front. "Matto," Croft yelled, "I know you're in there. Come out with your hands up. The whole town is here." Matto ignored him. He moved through the darkness, past the teller cages, to the back office. Croft's office. The room was dominated by a large mahogany desk, and, on the far wall, a massive ornate iron vault. And beside the vault, just as Jedediah had said, a large framed portrait of President Ulysses S. Grant. Matto pulled the painting aside. It wasn't a small safe. It was a second vault dial, smaller than the main one, set directly into the wall. Croft hadn't just built a safe. He'd built a secret compartment within the bank's main structure. Matto put his ear to the cold steel. He began to turn the dial. Click. Whir. He had one chance. The date of the hunt, 4/1876. He turned the dial right, past 4, left, past 18, right to 76. A heavy thunk echoed from inside the mechanism. He pulled the small hidden handle. The heavy fireproofed door swung open. It was a small space, filled with stacks of gold coin, jewelry, and a single leather-bound ledger. Matto grabbed the book. "He's in the vault!" a voice shouted from the front. Crash! The front glass window of the bank exploded inward. Croft, Sheriff Patton, and 3 other men, all armed, spilled into the lobby. "Light the lamps!" Croft bellowed. Matto was trapped. He was in the back office, the ledger in his hand. His only way out was through them. He braced himself. He held Finn's revolver, its unfamiliar weight cold in his hand. A lamp flared to life. "There!" Sheriff Patton yelled, pointing. Matto raised the revolver. "Don't shoot!" Croft commanded. "I want him alive. I want him to hang." "Matto!" Croft sneered, stepping forward. "A common thief, just as I said. Stealing from the good people of Redemption Creek. What a surprise." "I am not a thief," Matto said, his voice calm and cold. He held the ledger up. "I came for this." Croft's face went white. The blood drained from it, leaving a waxy, terrified mask. He recognized the book. He had it," Croft whispered, his mind spinning. "The old man, he gave it to the Indian." "Jedediah Hayes is alive," Matto said, his voice carrying into the lobby. The other men, the townsfolk, gasped. "He's lying," Croft screamed. "It's a trick. He's in league with the ghost. He's... Shoot him. Shoot him now, Patton." Sheriff Patton, a drunk but not a fool, hesitated. "Mr. Croft, Jedediah Hayes is alive. He's mad, a raving savage." "Am I?" Matto said. He took one step out of the office, holding the book. "This is the real ledger. The one your banker tried to destroy. The one he murdered Jedediah Hayes to hide." "He's not murdered!" a new voice shrieked. The bank door swung open again. Eliza Hayes stood there, the iron poker in her hand. Her hair was wild, her eyes blazing. "He's not murdered!" she screamed, her voice breaking with rage. "He's in my house! He's been a prisoner! His prisoner!" She pointed the poker at Silas Croft. The townsfolk who had gathered on the street pushed into the bank. Jeb Slocum, Mrs. Albright, Dr. Thorne. They all stared, stunned at the scene. Croft, trapped. Matto, holding a ledger. Eliza, accusing him of a crime more horrible than theft. She's mad," Croft yelled, desperate. "Her father's ghosts, I told you. She's hysterical. And this savage has poisoned her mind." "Then let us read the book," said Jeb Slocum, pushing his way to the front. "A ledger doesn't lie." Jeb was the only man in town Croft didn't own. He was quiet, but he was respected. He held his hand out to Matto. Matto looked at the storekeeper. He saw no fear. He saw a man who wanted the truth. Matto handed him the ledger. "No!" Croft screamed. He lunged, not at Matto, but at Jeb. Matto moved. He didn't use the gun. He dropped it and slammed his shoulder into Croft's chest, sending the banker sprawling onto the floor. Jeb Slocum, his hand shaking, opened the ledger. He flipped through the pages. The bank was so silent, the scratching of the paper sounded like a fire. Jeb's face turned pale, then red. My God," Jeb whispered. It's all here. Withdrawals, transfers, to an account in San Francisco, under Silas's mother's name, weeks before the robbery. He was bleeding at the bank dry. He stole everything. He framed Jedediah." Mrs. Albright gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "It's a lie! A forgery!" Croft shrieked, scrambling to his feet. "It's in your father's hand," Jeb said to Eliza, his voice full of awe. "Every entry, meticulous, and here, a final entry." Jeb read aloud. "May 10th, 1876. I have discovered the source of the discrepancies. S.C. has been routing funds for 6 months. He is a thief. I will confront him tomorrow. He does not know I have found his private ledger. I am placing this, my own, in his secret safe. As I fear for my—" Jeb stopped. He knew, Jeb whispered. He knew Croft was coming for him. The entire town turned, as one, to look at Silas Croft. The banker's handsome face was twisted into a mask of pure, cornered animal hatred. His eyes darted from the townsfolk to Matto, to Eliza. He's a liar!" Croft shrieked. You'll hang for this, Indian. And you," he spat at Eliza, "you'll be in the asylum before moonrise." He reached inside his coat. He wasn't going for a gun. He was going for his stick pin, the ruby. He lunged at Eliza, the pin aimed at her throat. Matto was too far away. A shot exploded in the confined space. It was not from Matto's gun. Silas Croft stopped. He looked down. A dark, spreading stain was blossoming on his pristine white shirt. He looked up, his eyes wide with surprise. He collapsed onto the marble floor. Dead. The bank was filled with smoke. Standing in the doorway, framed by the night, was Jedediah Hayes. He was supported by the doorframe, a gaunt spectre of a man. In his shaking hand, he held an old pearl-handled derringer. He will not touch my daughter. Again, Jedediah rasped. And then, his strength gone, he crumpled to the boardwalk. The bank was plunged into a dead, ringing silence, broken only by the acrid smell of gunpowder and the sight of Jedediah Hayes, a skeletal figure, collapsing onto the boardwalk. Eliza's scream of "Father!" shattered the paralysis. She flew to him, past the sprawled, bleeding body of Silas Croft. The townsfolk who had gathered outside surged in, their murmurs turning to gasps as they saw their dead banker alive and their savior banker dead. "My God," Jeb Slocum shouted, pushing through the chaos. "Jedediah, he's alive! Dr. Thorne, get over here, man! Help him!" Dr. Thorne, the same man who had once refused to treat a Lakota child, found himself kneeling by the man who had shamed him into it. He felt Jedediah's neck. "He's alive, burning with fever and starved, but alive. Get him inside." Several men, the same who had cursed Jedediah's name for 6 months, now lifted him with reverent care. They carried him past Croft's body and laid him gently on the sofa in the back office. In the lobby, Sheriff Patton stood white-faced, staring at Croft. He's been shot." "He was," Jeb Slocum stated, his voice ringing with new authority. He snatched the ledger from the counter. "He was shot by the man he tried to murder, while he was trying to murder that man's daughter. Seems like justice to me, Sheriff. Now, get to the Hayes house and arrest Deputy Finn. He's an accomplice." Patton, grateful for an order, fled the bank. The room settled, the townsfolk clustering near the wall, their eyes darting between the dead man, the office where Jedediah lay, and the silent Lakota warrior who stood at the center of it all. Matto had not moved. He was the eye of the storm. He was the savage, the bank robber, the hero, the killer's accomplice. They didn't know what he was. Eliza emerged from the office, her face streaked with tears. He's breathing, but... Dr. Thorne, he doesn't know." She looked at Matto, her gaze a mixture of terror and profound gratitude. Matto knew his part was not finished. He turned, not just to Eliza, but to the entire room, to Jeb Slocum, to Mrs. Albright, to Dr. Thorne. "I am the man who tracked Jedediah Hayes," he announced. His voice was not loud, but it silenced every whisper. This was the unthinkable, not the breaking of the bank. This. "Silas Croft paid me 30 pieces of gold," Matto continued, his gaze hard. "He said a thief had fled. He showed me a false trail, laid for a fool, and I followed it. My skill, my honor," he spat the word, "was used to hunt an innocent man." He took a step toward the crowd. "I tracked him to Sentinel Bluff. I found the marks where they..." He nodded to Croft's body. "Shot him and pushed him into the river. And I told the posse, he is dead. The water has him." I confirmed the lie. He looked directly at Eliza. "The lie that let him steal this town. The lie that made you an outcast. The lie that let him cage your father." He had laid his pride bare, admitting failure, admitting he had been a tool. For a warrior, it was a confession worse than any crime. But Wakantanka, the Great Spirit, does not forget, Matto said, his voice dropping. "I came back. I came because this woman," he gestured to Eliza, "cried for her father's ghost. And I owed her father a life." He turned his gaze on Dr. Thorne, who flinched. Years ago, my son was bit by the snake. I brought him here. This doctor, he would not see him. An Indian boy is not my concern, he said. My son was dying on this street. Your father, he said, looking back at Eliza, came from this bank. He forced the doctor to act. He gave me medicine. He saved my son's life. Matto's face was a mask of iron-hard shame. I took gold to track the man who saved my son. I led his murderers to him. This was not justice. It was balance. No one moved. Mrs. Albright was openly weeping. Dr. Thorne stared at the floor, his face red. Jeb Slocum, holding the ledger, stepped forward. He looked at Matto, seeing not a savage, but the most honorable man in the room. He stuck out his hand. Matto looked at the white man's hand. He ignored it. Instead, he grasped Jeb's forearm, warrior style. Jeb, after a second's hesitation, grasped his in return. It was a compact, a new covenant for Redemption Creek. Matto's work was done. He looked at Eliza. Your father is a fighter. He survived the river. He will survive this. He needs you. He turned, walked past the body of Silas Croft, past the shattered glass, and out into the pre-dawn darkness. He did not look back, melting into the shadows as if he had never been there at all. The sun that rose over Redemption Creek was harsh, illuminating a town ripped open. Silas Croft's body was gone, and Deputy Finn, nursing Matto's knife wound, was locked in his own jail cell. The reckoning had begun. The town's entire focus, however, settled on the small room above Slocum's mercantile. There, Jedediah Hayes was lost in a violent fever, and Eliza refused to leave his side. The same women who had scorned her, led by a deeply ashamed Mrs. Albright, now brought broth, clean linens, and whispered apologies. They were not just nursing a man. They were tending to the town's fragile, battered conscience. While they prayed, Jeb Slocum took charge of the bank. Jedediah's recovered ledger was a map to the full, rotten truth. Croft had not just staged the payroll theft. He had been systematically bleeding the town dry for months, seizing ranches and foreclosing on property. On the fourth day, the fever broke. Eliza awoke with a start to find her father's eyes, clear and sane, watching her. That coat, he rasped, is far too big for you, Eliza. She burst into tears, a laugh catching in her throat. Their reunion was a gasping, desperate return to life. Matto? Jedediah whispered, after he had taken some water. The Lakota. He's gone, Eliza said softly. The same night. He said he owed you a debt. For his son. Jedediah closed his eyes, a faint smile touching his lips. A good man. I never thought. His recovery was slow, mirroring the town's. A month later, Jedediah, frail but resolute, stood on the bank steps. He held a stack of deeds. This bank is insolvent, he announced, his voice carrying. But the land he stole, that belongs to you. He returned every stolen deed, pledging to sell Croft's remaining assets to repay every last depositor. He wasn't just clearing his name, he was giving them back their town. Eliza watched from the crowd, no longer a pariah. As the people cheered, she felt a familiar presence. He was gone, but on a nearby hitching post, a single hawk feather was tied with a leather thong. A silent farewell. Matto's honor was clean. Jedediah had his name. And Eliza was finally free. She touched the feather, then turned and walked toward her father, stepping into the bright, unforgiving sunlight. The ghost that haunted Eliza Hayes was more real and more monstrous than she could have ever imagined. It wasn't a phantom in the cellar, but the greed that lived in the heart of Silas Croft. It took the courage of a broken woman, the resilience of a man who refused to die, and the unthinkable honor of a Lakota warrior to bring the truth to light. In the Wild West, justice was rarely found in a courtroom. It was carved out of the dust by those brave enough to face the darkness, even the darkness they carried within themselves. Matto balanced the scales, Jedediah reclaimed his name, and Eliza finally found her redemption. Thank you for journeying with us to Redemption Creek. If this story of drama, survival, and unthinkable courage gripped you, please hit that like button to let us know. Don't forget to share this story with someone else who loves a powerful Western. And if you haven't already, subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss another tale from the unforgiving frontier. We'll see you in the next story.